It is 1:02. Audrey, do you think we should get started?
I do.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Um, this is the first episode of Offsite with the Unico System. It's a new webinar series where we dig into what it's really like to build well offsite. Today's topic is why Unico is such a strong HVAC fit for modular and offsite construction. And we've got two really great people lined up to talk about this topic today. I am your host, Maura Intagliata, and I am a marketing manager here at Unico. I am joined today by two people who I would like to say live and breathe offsite construction. We have Audree Grubesic with OffsiteDirt Network, who is our partner for this series, and she is deeply connected across the offsite construction industry. We also have Robert Dillard with Biltwise Structures, building modular and panelized projects on the ground every day. Audree and Robert, before we get into it, do you just kind of want to give folks a quick sense of what you're up to these days?
Robert, would you like to begin or would you like me to go?
Ladies first, as always.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here. Really excited to bring you this series. We've got two other ones that are coming up, and we're excited about having the opportunity to share information. I have been working with the Unico system and the company and the individuals for several years. I really love the product. I have been in offsite construction for almost a decade. I actually used to build modular homes in Colorado, and then I've kind of explored all areas from finance to real estate to building teams to working with modular factories. And OffsiteDirt Network has been around for almost 7 years. We have about 18 contributors, all experts in their fields, everything from panelized to modular construction to lean manufacturing and leadership. So it's always exciting when I get to talk and bring forward a product that I truly believe in that really is changing the way that we build in construction using modular assets. And this assembly system, this actual HVAC solution really has so many benefits. So thank you all. I'm very excited to be here, as you already know, and I can't wait to hear your questions and be able to walk through what we're going to present today.
Thank you,
Uh,
Audrey. Robert?
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Dillard. I started off in the panelized housing business quite a few years ago. I was in that for about 17 years, where we built vacation homes and just loved it. I mean, I've always been a builder at heart and a manufacturer. With the downturn of the economy, kind of went into manufacturing where I got exposed to lean concepts, Six Sigma, and that sort. I was in quality. I was in customer service, which is really my passion. And then for some reason, they wanted me to be a sales manager here. So I left that business after about 23 years and came here because what's better than building things and dealing with customers and, so you're manufacturing and then building houses as well. So I really got introduced to Unico about a year and a half ago. And where I see that the advantage is to work it into our manufacturing facility. Yes, we build houses, but we're a manufacturer. So our goal is to be efficient. Our goal is if we want to move a house a day through the stations, then we have to have our tack time. So we're installing an HVAC system. So we want a system that's lean and mean, one that we can get in installed in the house. And then as builders, you guys want something that you have to touch as little as possible. So how do you get those goals together? That's what we do. And that's kind of, and so that's, and what are we doing? Kind of one of the things is what are we doing here right now? We're just working to improve, listening to customers, listening to their feedback, and constantly trying to improve our processes so that we can deliver a good quality house as inexpensive we can to you guys. So
An
thank you.
HVAC system that's lean and mean. I like that.
Lean and mean. You can quote me.
That's a new one. Maybe I'll put that in some marketing. I like that. How we'll spend the hour. So we just did welcome and introductions. We'll talk about the offsite construction landscape where HVAC kind of fits into that. If you guys have any questions as we're going through, of course, you can put them in the chat, but we have a dedicated time where you can ask your question, and then closing and next steps. So before we get started, a question that I wanted to ask everyone so we can get a little bit of a background knowledge is, what HVAC systems are you using on your projects? So you can go ahead and drop your answer in the chat. Are you using traditional ducted, ductless mini split, radiant heating, or does it vary by project? Robert, before you were introduced to the Unico system, was there a go-to HVAC product that you used?
So mainly it was just conventional systems, which are kind of, after the installation. It's probably the least inefficient as far as a builder, because now you have another subcontractor you have to coordinate with. And one of the beauties of modular is, if you've got an area that is hard to find subcontractors, that's just one more complication to the building process. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can mini splits. We see a lot of mini splits as well. So you guys can always put that answer in the chat as we keep going forward, but we're gonna move on from this and go to the next one. So a lot of times what we hear is the challenge in offsite construction is that HVAC is often an afterthought. There's tight factory schedules, there's coordination across trades, there's space constraints. So let's set the stage. Offsite and modular construction has grown a ton. But a lot of the systems that go into these buildings, especially mechanical systems, still weren't designed with the factory workflow in mind. So Audree, I'm going to ask you this question. From where you sit across the OffsiteDirt Network, what's changed the most in the last few years about how builders are approaching modular projects? Oh, you're muted.
I don't know if she can.
You're muted, Audree.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
I just wanted to give our audience a little bit of background on what's happening in the modular construction industry and kind of level play the landscape. $20.5 billion was spent in U.S. permanent modular market for 2025. Actively, 70% of those projects are multifamily, commercial, or in the education space. And for 2030, there's a projected growth of 6.5%. Why does that matter? We're starting to see that people are looking for alternatives of modern methods of construction. That's why we're all talking today, right? That's what we're seeing in our industry. There is a shift, there is a change. And with those changes, we're also looking at these manufacturers, because this is a manufactured system, a product, and we start looking at tools that can make more efficiencies. When I talk to builders and people that are doing these projects, the number one thing is, where can I make some money? Where can I find ways to reduce costs, build efficiencies? And this is one solution. The one thing that I love about the HVAC or the MEP area is that there are these solutions that you can build into the project. For one, for the person on the end user of it, right? Being able to have a product that's already there. When I used to build homes 10 years ago, I used to have to put the HVAC in after the house got there. Most companies that are building modular homes do that same type of thing. But how wonderful it would have been for me to know 10 years ago that I could have the HVAC system as a solution already provided. And from the manufacturer standpoint, what a great opportunity for them to be able to create another revenue stream. If they're inputting a product, if they're having an upscale product or a product that can actually enhance the livability for a client, the end user, then the end user most likely will want to pay maybe significantly higher for that type of product. And knowing that there is limited space, there are constraints when you are building with modular, to know that there's a unit that can easily go into it that's a game changer, right? And when we're also looking from a productivity standpoint, and gosh, Robert, I would love your opinion about this, being, the salesperson and in manufacturer, you have tight building schedules, right? You have to get one project through that line to the next. So when you're looking at it, how do you feel about a product that's going in there that's going to be more efficient in your manufacturing plant?
Absolutely, Audrey. That's to me, it's all about efficiencies and predictability. So, houses, always the question with a stick-built house is when are you going to be finished? When are you going to get my CO? When can I move in? When can I cancel my lease that I'm currently running? So what we want to do is be predictable. And if we can predict the time it takes to install the HVAC system, then that goes a long way into predicting when the offsite is going to be. And you're exactly right. You're hitting, I don't know what I can say much more than what you just said. It kind of makes it tough. And then the fact that the Unico system is so streamlined. So one thing that it hits us on the manufacturing side, and I'm into the logistics end, which is delivery, is the height of the house going down the road. If you've got a trailer that's X number of inches tall, you've got a house that's X number of inches tall, and you've got a bridge that's not quite X number of inches tall, you got a problem getting the house to your site. So the lower that house profile can be, the less expensive the freight is. And all that has to do with the thickness of your ductwork, the thickness of everything that you've got to put in there. So that high velocity system really helps lower the overall height of the house. Sounds real simple, but it can cost you thousands of dollars on the back end of your job. So,
So Robert, when you're doing projects at Biltwise, where does HVAC typically show up in the planning process? Kind of want to take a step back. Is that early or late?
it's really early. I mean, some
Okay,
customers just want what they want,
sure.
and they have a reason for it. We have some, and I know this is a Unicode forum here, but we have some that just want a mini split, and they just want a mini split. And then you have others that want a conventional system. So just like Audrey said, the old school was, hey, you got your house built, and oh, by the way, I got to go call my HVAC guy. You got to put it in now, and he
Mm,
just fumbles amongst all the other MEPs to get it in wherever he can get it in. I like to talk to people early on because as small as the ductwork is on a Unico HVAC, it still takes up space. It may take a closet, it may take something. So thinking about that in advance, managing expectations with a builder to take up as little real estate as possible in that house and still get them a unit that performs well, which Francis is going to definitely do that. It just turns into a win-win. And then you have your manufacturing, your guys on the shop floor. The last thing they want to do is be right in the middle of a manufacturing process, and then they've got to quote unquote figure out where the HVAC goes. Yeah, that's just going to slow things down. So we want to start as soon as we can in that planning process to make sure it goes smoothly.
yeah, and thinking back as myself as a client, if I was building a modular home, I would want something that was in the factory because it's just convenient. It's one less thing
Yes,
that I, as the consumer, have to worry about.
exactly
Um,
right.
I would
Yeah.
just be like, whatever you guys recommend, what's going to save me space, what's going to help with your schedule, make sure that it goes on time. And it seems that Unico kind of fits all of those.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think that too, like when we're talking about that, simplifying trades, right? On number 3 here, we have multiple trades. I think that's a big deal. It's kind of like when you build a traditional home and you build a fireplace. It's like 6 different trades have to build a fireplace. To be able to have less people having safety on site, being able to talk through a system and actually know that when the house is set, that the system is being able to be connected quickly and being able to have less people in that house, that's a big deal. I think the other thing that I love about the pre-planning process, because that's all construction in modular construction, right? I mean, Robert, when we're talking to people, when we're putting the orders together, It's all the front end work that we have to do. So knowing that we can check off one other area for airflow and capacity, and then knowing that it comes in the house all ready to go, oh my gosh, that's like a dream.
That's right. Yeah.
It's all about the convenience, like I keep saying. Just putting myself in those shoes. If the less I have to deal with, the better. So if that's what, and I know that's so like 30-year-old of me, but the less that I have to deal with or what's
But I think
easier,
everybody, yeah,
faster.
I think everybody feels that way. Francis, I
Yeah.
would love, do you have any stories of clients that, really saw a difference in the system and getting it all set up in the beginning? Have you had any experiences that you'd love to share?
Well, one in particular, and I'm going to put him on the spot. I see Daniel's on the call. Daniel and I met in Boulder, Colorado, I guess about 2 years ago. And he was the factory manager. We had, I think initially there were some hiccups, but once we got going and finding the ease of putting in the system, it just made it really flow. It seemed like things just were more expedient. And Daniel, you can more than welcome to jump in there as well.
Yeah, once we got everything worked out, got everything laid out, I was actually a training center out there for building modulars. So we had high school students in the factory every day on the line, installing the units, air ducts and everything.
Daniel, where are you from? Can you give our audience a little bit more background on who you are and what factory are we talking about, or what are we talking about?
The factory we was just speaking about was Boulder Mod in Boulder, Colorado. It's the first of Habitat for Humanity to operate their own modular facility, and the partnership with the school district for juniors and seniors in high school to get hands-on training in modular building. Myself, I'm a new startup production manager, so I go around the country starting up new modular facilities.
That's awesome. So nice. Well, thank you for being here. Welcome. It's so great to have you.
Yeah.
And I think it's great for us to have a real example. And I love that juniors and seniors can install this. How crazy good is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
So now we go into where Unico fits. So the reasons that builders choose Unico for factory built projects. Like we've said, it's space saving ductwork. And Robert, I'm going to have you specifically talk to that. One of the things builders bring up is really how the Unico system, how little space that the system needs. How does that change what's possible in a modular frame or panel, Robert?
Well, what it does, it allows you to have a taller ceiling. So,
Okay.
in this day and time, and I'll explain that a little more. In this day and time, 9 foot used to be 8 foot ceilings was the norm. Now it's 9 foot is the norm, and 10 foot is very common. So, kind of as I said earlier, the taller the house is, the taller the box is as it sits on a carrier. Therefore, your overall height. Therefore, you get into different permitting, transportation, DOT permit limits. So if you can limit the height or the thickness of your ductwork, you can go from a 7-inch duct like on a conventional system down to maybe a 4-inch duct. You've saved what, 3 inches of height, and that might get you down a permit level. So it does make a difference in the overall height. And plus, I mean, it's just a matter of now you got to deal with something that's 7 inches diameter. You're going to take up more closet space, or you can deal with something that's 4 inches in diameter and take up less closet space. So when the house is all about, you want, if you're paying by the square foot, you want as much usable square foot as you can get. You don't want to, kind of like my pork chops. I don't like the bone in it because I'm paying for the bone. I don't want to pay for the bone. I want to pay. Exactly. So it does help a lot. It does help a lot to make it more streamlined. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you sent me photos of Unico being installed, and you talked on the phone when we met earlier about just truly how much space is saved. So can you walk us through these photos, kind of
Sure.
what we're seeing, and just give us a real world example at your factory, just where the Unico system is installed, why it's installed there, and how it saves you space?
So you're looking at the ceiling of a two-story house. You're actually looking at the ceiling joist. The rim around the outside is actually where the floor joist above set on. So if you can imagine, there's about a 5.5 inch gap between the top of the ceiling joist and what would have been the bottom of the floor joist above it. We call that the interstitial space. That's not a Star Trek term. That's a real modular term. And so the idea is on a two-story house is, hey man, look, we got this space up there. Let's get some ductwork in it. Let's get some electrical in there, but in most cases, let's get the ductwork. So you can see here some flat duct, which is it's about 3.5 by 14 maybe, and wrapped with, this might be R4, R6 insulation. And you can see the flex duct, which is the Unico flex duct. And it's only about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Francis. And then it's wrapped in R4, R6, whatever the engineers call out in their res checks. So you can basically get all of that in there. Now, in the picture of the far right, because this house is actually 6 modules, 3 downstairs, 3 upstairs. And you can see right in the middle of the picture on the right, there's kind of a little piece of a trunk sticking up that's taped off. So the module above that has the mating portion of that trunk line. So you set one on top of the other. You have a place in the ceiling or the floor to access it. You tie those two together. Now your air conditioner system is tied in upstairs to downstairs. So and that's the cleanest way to do it. Now this customer wants all of his ductwork, all of his supplies in the ceiling. So you can imagine this is the first floor. Those registers drop down, but he wants to run all the way up in the attic and put his other supply lines in the ceiling. If he was okay to have them in the floor on this house, literally all your ductwork would be right there in the ceiling, and that's it. You would run up to get into the floor of the second story, and you would run down to get into the ceiling of the first. And that's as simple as you can get. Now all you have to do is go down and tie into your air handler, and you've got an air conditioning system, a great one too. So.
And Francis, do you see a lot of other manufacturers putting the Unico system and the floor joists and that sort of design? What are you seeing?
I see a lot of similarities to this. Again, I'm going to go back to a Boulder mod in Colorado on the townhomes 2-story that we were doing. This is exactly, similar to what we were doing, but using the rectangular duct between the floors. And Robert, to your point, on those, we were actually putting the first floor in the ceiling. The second floor was coming up right into that second floor.
Yeah, smart.
Awesome. Okay. We'll go back. Audree, as our OffsiteDirt expert, are you seeing that space constraints is one of the biggest reasons projects struggle to standardize their HVAC approach across a product line?
I just think in general, like MVP seem to be the most difficult when we're talking about multifamily. That's always the conversations that we're having, right? And we're also having those conversations with the engineers in order to kind of design it and making sure that it can be effective. The one thing I love about this product and the team is that, one, you guys actually help work with not only those engineers and calculating the loads and the information that needs to be provided there, but having a product list of knowing where all the materials are coming from, how they are going to be accounted for, how they're going to be laid out in the plan. Working through that on another level really builds so much trust. And I think the other thing that I really love, and Francis and I have kind of talked about this before, I love when the team from Unico has not only their training center at their facility, but also having their training center or having individuals go out and help them on location. I think that's really interesting and helpful, only because, again, there's only so much customer service that companies are willing to do in the MEP world, right? It's kind of like, well, the factory builds it, they manufacture it, and hopefully it all goes well. And so being able to have that other layer of security, that other layer of knowing there's a trusted partner out there that wants to have the success in the building, because HVAC is a big deal. I mean, you're cooling and you're heating. There isn't a place in the United States or global that doesn't need both. And to be able to feel confident in that is a really big deal. There's so many other efficiencies with the system other than just, just looking at the factory built of the installing efficiency. There's just efficiency in the system. I like how Robert was also talking about the planning part of it. Is it going, and where is it going? Is it going underneath the stair system? Is it going in a closet? Understanding what that looks like. Builders are very aware of those things. They're also trying to find new efficient ways where, again, they don't have to have so many partners on site. They know exactly what's going in and how it's getting checked. I think the other thing that we have to be aware of too is that there's third-party inspectors in manufacturing plants making sure that everything is installed into code, everything is quality assured. So those are all big things when we're looking at building. Also, I think the other application is being able to be in a panelized system, another approach that makes the system faster and easier. We need things that are of higher productivity.
And going back to your point of we have training that you can come to us or we can come to you, I think a huge benefit of what the Unico system has is Francis. So a dedicated general manager for the offsite construction world. Because I think in a lot of manufacturers, they don't have a dedicated person that you can reach at any time, and that's Francis. And I know I've had a lot of people come to me and say it's so great that I can reach Francis and even the owners at any time, and my questions are getting answered. So it's all around just a really great thing.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
And before we go there, I would love it, Francis, why don't you introduce yourself and maybe just give a little bit of background, because really you understand HVAC better than anybody on the team. It's pretty crazy your background and how much devotion you've had to being an expert in this field.
Well, I've been in the industry now almost 26 years. I started more so on the commercial and industrial side of HVAC equipment and manufacturing, so big chillers and rooftops and all that big equipment, and temperature controls, building automation. And then I spent about 7 years total on the contracting side, which I enjoyed. But when I came to Unico, I don't think anything can top what we do. Our products, the team that's here at Unico. So I've had a lot of years in the industry. The offsite construction industry is phenomenal. I love it. The one thing that's unique, and Audree, you know this, Daniel, you know this, David, you know it, is that everybody is always collaborating and willing to share and help, not only move the industry forward, but I learn from people every day that aren't my customers or I don't really work with. And so I think that's important.
Yeah, I think collaboration is a key, right? Because that's the only way we grow. And if we're not listening to people calling us or asking questions or how to figure out the next solution, then we can never get better.
Absolutely.
100%. So Another reason builders love the Unico system is installation efficiency. So what we've kind of been hearing from Francis and other people in the industry is that factory schedules don't have a lot of slack in them. They're very rigid. So, Robert, what does a faster, more consistent HVAC install actually save you? Is it time, labor, rework, or kind of all of them?
Yes, yes. It is all of them.
Just a flat
So
yes.
yeah, just a flat yes. So yeah,
Yeah.
like if you've got 10 pieces in a process, the process can only proceed as fast as the slowest step in that process. That's pretty much lean manufacturing. So the faster you can get an HVAC system efficiently installed, then it's no longer your bottleneck in your manufacturing process. And the nice thing about the Unico system is it's a plug and play type system. You've got a diagram that Francis provides with the manual J. So there's your instructions. If you're working well with your engineers and planning ahead, then all the chases are there where you need them. So now it's just a matter of, while they're inside the house trimming or flooring or, sheetrocking. Well, they've already finished sheetrocking, obviously, but doing some other MEP type things, you can be up in the attic or in the floor system doing your HVAC. So simultaneously. So all these processes are having being done in tandem. So having an efficient system to install is key because you don't want the module to just sit there while somebody's installing the HVAC. You want it to be moving every day. If it's moving every day, it's getting closer to your builder because your builder's out there grading, building your foundation while we're building the house. So the timing of that is critical. So
Yeah, and
it is
Robert,
very,
something you mentioned that I want to point out is the design that Unico provides. And Francis, maybe you can talk a little bit more to this. How important is our free design service to people? And can you explain it a little bit, Francis, what it is?
Sure. So our design services is our group that we have that when we receive project drawings, floor plans, they will go through and in particular in the offsite construction, that's Shreya in our office. She will run the loads, um, verify that information. She then designs the actual system. So she lays out the best option for where to run the duct work, um, puts together a bill of materials. The other thing she does that I think is really neat is she does a 3D model. And
Mm.
that is something that is just, it's a powerful piece to be able to see it that way. And then we send it back to, in Robert's case, I'll pick on you. We send it back to Robert. And then usually, if there's any questions or revisions after Robert and his team have looked at it, they'll call or email me. We make those changes. Um, and then we send them kind of a finalized design. And it doesn't necessarily change the bill of materials. But I will say that Shreya, and I know she's not on our call, um, she is really phenomenal. She's the type of lady you could drop in the middle of the desert and she will build an arc reactor and fly her rear end home. I just,
Love
that,
Shreya.
yeah,
Yes.
she's really good at what she does. So
And
that
that's
makes a
great that you
difference.
bring her up also, Francis, because she is our guest speaker for our next webinar. So we're very excited to kind of get her on here and talking about all things design
yeah,
for the
we want
awesome.
to see her build that arc reactor during the next session.
Yeah, for sure. But Robert, you said it's really important when we're talking about efficiency that people have that design and the accuracy of it. So do your guys have it in their hands as they're kind of installing the system?
Yes, they do. And
Okay.
I know Francis mentioned the three dimensional. It
Yeah.
you don't find many people that can see 3 dimensions on a plan. All of our plans are 2 dimensional, they're flat drawings. That 3 dimensional piece really reveals maybe some, a piece of some structure or closet, some way that it may cause a problem or maybe an opportunity. I don't want to use the word problem. But yes, they do. And actually the guy that works mostly, that I lean on mostly, is the fellow that installs the HVAC systems.
Mm.
So, you really want, just like you would on a stick build, you want to involve the people that are actually doing the work. I mean, if I did the work and handed it up to the production floor, they'd just look at me like I was crazy. So, and they're the ones that they're having to deal with the challenges. So the best ones to give input back through Shreya and back through Francis and coming up with that, the best design possible. And the nice thing about the very nice thing about what Francis does, it's not in stone. You're not out there pulling your tape measure and measuring to a 16th. If you need to adjust the trunk line over a couple of inches, one way or the other, 6 inches, it's not a deal killer. So you've got the flexibility to where you can make some audible changes on the production floor and still get the same quality product at the same rate, the same speed that you would, you're not held to a rigid design, let's call it.
Sure. It's kind of goes back to your comment of the plug and play.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Audrey, from a network-wide view, is installation speed usually the top priority for builders, or does it rank behind other factors? What are you hearing kind of in the industry?
I think it just depends on the factory and it depends on the project. Obviously, installation is a big thing. How many people do we have on site? What is the in-factory versus the on-site installation, and how effectively can we get that done? I do think that Robert brought up a really good point. Being able to see a design in 3D then 2D makes a big deal. It's a big conversation, because being able to have those efficiencies also helps you cut costs. If you're being able to see something in a design plan that's 3D and knowing where those lines are going and knowing how effectively the unit is being installed, being able to have any type of troubleshooting, knowing those details, especially if we're talking on a larger commercial project, that's invaluable. Those are hours spent, dollars saved. So in the design process alone, when we talk about modular, I mean, that's always the biggest thing. Everybody talks about pre-construction, pulling together your entire team at the beginning of the project and knowing what everybody's doing, how we're effectively working together, how are we collaborating, and time is money. Money is time. And so when you look at those things, I think installation is a great efficiency. I think collaboration and communication. I think being able to have a design service that's willing to, go the extra mile to design something in a 3D, in a Revit, or a different type of CAD or a different type of design is super valuable, because again, you're doing everything on the front end of the project so that you can make those changes, so that when it is going to the factory and it's getting built through the factory, all those third-party inspections, all the things that make that efficiency in that building system move faster it's a great value. And in the manufacturing part, I mean, Robert, and other people that are on the call, I mean, it's about moving product more quickly with greater quality and less, less issues, right? So that's the game. I mean, every factory right now that has large projects that are moving mods, the most important thing are, one, quality control and how efficient can we move it through the factory. And when you can have a product that actually is built for a system to work within the factory and already have success with so many factories, that right there to me just seems very logical. I see Dave Childs is on the call, and Dave is with Build, which is a steel frame provider. Dave, I'd love to hear your feedback on like pre-construction and knowing about the MEP solutions when you look at a steel frame system.
I mean, for me personally, steel framing, if you know anything, I'm gonna date myself. If you remember being a kid and playing with an erector set, okay, or Legos even, and even as an adult, I like to partake. In fact, I'm really gonna. Sorry for this little sidebar. I found this in a antique store the other day. This is made from the Tinker Toy Company. It's from the 50s, and it's a curtain wall builder. Okay, so like people talk about prefab being new and interesting. These are prefabbed walls that you would put together. It even came with like mullions for. I mean, it got everything right. All right, sorry, nerd out. This whole presentation, I've been watching this, and all I want to do is talk to the Unico company. Like I was double checking, make sure that I'm connected with Francis, and I'm thinking, how with steel framing, it lends itself to prefab so well because it's like, all right, do you need a particular clip or support for framing this system every time you put it in? Because that type of standardization is what makes prefab strive. That's what we're all striving towards getting to, right? Is like less guesswork, less rework, all those things. And so I see the system, I'm thinking, how do I partner with them for a white label of just this particular framing thing to make this process easier? So with steel framing, I like that flexibility because this lends itself towards that pre-planning, which we're all very enthused about and know that construction needs as a whole. I don't know if that answered the question or not, Audree. I just got excited. So
and I love that, and I love that you brought out your tool. I want to see that in person. That looks like so much fun. So maybe next time when I see you at an event, please
absolutely.
Bring it. But I think that there's something to be said for that, and I love that you brought it up. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, and I saw Dave at the Industrialized Housing Conference in July, and as we were all talking, and the biggest conversation about that was the military that is now really honing in on industrialized construction and wanting assembly and some prefab, and they want to have modular. They're all very much on board. Thank God, right? It's been decades that we've all been advocating for it. But with that, the biggest thing that Dave said, and David said that is so instrumental is standardization. Right? How are we creating tools? How are we creating products that have a standardized application? And I think that right there is such a big thing that's happening in the industry that we're all talking about, Maura. And again, we're seeing it. And so again, if we can have something that has multiple values in different verticals, and we have a system that we can see in a 3D modeling, and we can also get an entire list of materials, and we know that they can all be shipped, and then we also know that we're getting support in installing it, that right there to me says, yes, I want to be a part of that, and who can I talk to in order to be using the product?
Absolutely. And I think to add to that, another thing that the Unico system is phenomenal at is the collaboration across trades. And you've kind of touched on it, Robert, Francis, everyone's touched on it, but I was talking to a general contractor last week, and I asked him, what was your experience with the Unico system? And he said it was so easy because every single person, every single trade could be in there at one time while the Unico system was installing, and it saved us so much time. So Robert, as we kind of bring in collaboration, walk us through who's in the room or who you think should be when we're talking HVAC decisions on a modular project.
So when we do what we call a pre-production launch, which is just an overall review of the plans, the specifications of a customer, we have quality in there because obviously, they're in there checking. The nice thing about modular is we inspect stuff to death, which is great. It's great. It keeps, you're looking at it all the way through the process. So you have quality, you have engineering, you have the HVAC guy, definitely the electrical, your plumber. So all your MEPs are represented in the room. Of course, the production manager's in there as well as, code compliance. So there's some things that you got to make sure that you comply to the building codes. And even though all of our foremen know that, you still want somebody in there to kind of say, hey guys, don't forget about this. Don't forget that we're going to North Carolina. If it's in North Carolina, we have to make sure this. So not that has a lot to do with the HVAC, but everybody's hearing the same thing, and they're hearing the same thing there. And of course, even before it goes into engineering, we have the HVAC supervisor in the room to make sure that when it goes into engineering, those things are planned for as well. It can even come down to on the Unico system, you have the round the nice round outlets, which I really like. They're nice and small.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have those longer ones, the elongated ones. And you
Mm-hmm.
think, okay, well, I'll just pick one or the other. Well, what happens if you have a floor joist that's running right over a window? And oh, by the way, the homeowner he wants a nice symmetrical. You're like my wife. I want everything symmetrical. I want that register right above that window. Well, now all of a sudden I've got a floor joist right where my register was supposed to be. So that pre-planning part, really comes into play. And that's where the HVAC supervisor speaks up, because they've been through that before. So they can say, hey, we got to make sure we do such and such. We got to make sure we line things up a certain way. And so it just all goes smoother. But I just can't say enough how you want people that actually do the work in the room. All us office people, okay, that's fine. But we don't have to. We're not the ones that make the thing work, right, on the floor. So you definitely want the foreman from the shop floor in there for sure.
I want to just bring up one other thing that might be of value. I really think the general contractor needs to be a part of the conversation, right? Because even though we're manufacturing it, it's still the general contractor that is pulling together everybody in order to create the project and finish the project on site. I think also having the individuals that are buying the house, obviously having them be educated so that they can, like you were saying, Robert, I think there's a really good point. There are certain things that you want in your house or you want to see. And so being able to speak up in those meetings and being able to have those questions and walking through that. And also the general contractor being aware of how it's going to be built and how it's going to come together on site is super valuable.
That's a really good point, Audree.
Absolutely. Robert, it sounds like I would love your wife, because aesthetically I am like that as well. And the slotted outlets, ooh, I love our slotted outlets. I'm like, ooh, nice and crisp. Love it.
There was never any paisley wallpaper in our house. Only lines. Only
She
lines.
sounds like a queen that I need to meet. I love that. Audree, when it comes to better collaboration and communication, if you could change one thing about how mechanical, structural, and finished trades communicate on offsite projects, what would it be?
So when I was building my own modular homes, I did two things. Many builders already do this in the traditional realm, is when we were building a project, we would actually have everybody come to the site as the foundation was getting poured, so that everybody knew how to work together. And when you're a general contractor, sometimes you meet several different types of trades for HVAC, because maybe one guy has a really big project and so he can't be there. So another team has to come in. So I think on site is always a good value. I also think bringing people to the factory and actually understanding the components and how they actually come together and how the build actually looks and how it's actually streamlined and the boxes are connecting. Education is key. Modular has very different applications than traditional built construction. Those nuances could save hundreds of thousands of dollars. So having your team invited to a meeting and everybody meeting each other and knowing who's coming in, what trade is here at this time, what one's leaving, how do we complement each other, and also how do we communicate better to know that we're all working together as a team in order to get a project done. So collaboration is key, but also communication and knowing who's working on the project with you, and then also how's the factory effectively building it so that you're not missing a step.
Yes, and I think going back to our design service, it's so important to have that document because everyone can see it. So, if someone's not there, maybe from the HVAC team, but an engineering person needs to see it, it's just a simple, oh, here's the design and here's what it's going to look like. I think is huge when it comes to collaboration. Francis, are you kind of seeing the same thing of, it's important to collaborate, and how important our design kind of goes into the collaboration of everyone on the team?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's almost a daily occurrence. And I mean, again, I have calls with Robert quite frequently. Daniel and the guys down at Tatum Tech, we have calls. And I just think you're more prepared. And like I think, Robert, you said it, there's always going to be in the field there's always going to be a challenge. I don't care what you're installing, you're going to run up against something. And to have the flexibility is great, but also being prepared. And so, yeah, I think that collaboration with everybody working together, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and the Unico system leans so great into that and just allows for so much collaboration. When I was a teacher, I always used to say, let's be proactive, not reactive. And I feel like
Yes.
the Unico system really allows the whole entire team to be proactive.
And the one thing that's really important, and I say this all the time, we have one of, and being in this industry and having worked with other manufacturers and their leadership teams, we have one of the best ownership groups that I've ever worked for or, been involved with over my course of my career. That makes a huge difference.
Sure.
And so has a lot to do with the quality of our work and what you guys get from Unico.
Yeah, there's not too many manufacturers where you can have an owner's phone number and be able to call them and they pick up the phone. And I'm sure you've heard it in the field, Francis, that's something that people love about the ecosystem. Yeah.
I think the other thing to bring up too is that it's made in the U.S. Being able to have a facility that actually is here that you can actually drive to, being in Arnold and Missouri, that's a big deal. Knowing that there's product available and that there's somebody that you can call. I think the responsiveness of the team, customer service from my standpoint has been exceptional. There's always someone that's going to find out something if there is a question that they don't have the answer for immediately. The collaboration is so much more significant, especially when we're talking about MEPs. That's the biggest thing in every conversation of offsite right now. How are we working and knowing each other and knowing the teams that we're working with, and to have that effective communication between parties, it's a real need. It's a real deal.
Yeah, and we're Build America, Buy America compliant, so that also leans into, the American manufacturing. I couldn't agree more, Audree, with you. So now we just have some time for questions. If anyone has anything specific that they want to ask us, now is your time, or you can put it in the chat and we're happy to answer. I want to make sure that we're respecting everyone's time as we kind of close up our webinar and discussion. I see someone's typing. That makes me excited. As we wait for questions though, Robert, for builders just starting to explore modular or offsite work, where's a good step to evaluate their HVAC approach?
I think the best is to find fellow builders in their area that have built modular, and actually just do your own intelligence. Get out there, go watch them set a house, see what has to be done after the house is set, talk to them about their experiences with HVAC. If they did do a conventional system after the fact, were they satisfied with that, or is that just, I've been doing that for 30 years, so that's just what I do. Would they be and just do your own research on it. That's probably to me the best way to do it. Most builders know a dozen other builders in their areas.
Sure.
And those real world experiences are very telling. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just want to make sure I'm giving anyone who would like to ask a question some time.
I would say ask ChatGPT, but
yeah.
It's a first start. It's a first start, right? I think manufacturing and really understanding modular construction is already in the works. I think when you can see the military talk about industrialized construction and actually supporting it, that really means we're making a movement. Actually, when I was at that conference, they were asking if there's going to be marketing done so that we can actually know that we're being supported. Again, we're such a growing industry. Over the past decade that I've been in it, the exponential growth of what's happening is incredible. Also, I just want to mention that HVAC, there are a lot of other areas that it's going into. I mean, we know that there's refrigeration in data centers, but there's also conditioned space that's in where people are working, right? Also, hospitals are a big deal. We're seeing prefab solutions. I talked to many hospital organizations over the last 30 years. They've been using prefab and nobody knows about it. So there is a shift and there is a change. We don't have as many builders out there as we'd like to see. The general contractors that are already on projects are super busy. So we have to start finding other solutions. And I really feel that factory design built projects are really the future of where we're going to go. So knowing that there's an evolution of your product that has already been sustainable, you guys have had 40 years in the industry, and to be able to see the nuances and the requests of what people are doing and to change the product in order to fulfill those areas is super valuable. Scott actually wrote, I generally receive standard conventional systems, sometimes mini splits on the wall. Absolutely. We're seeing those same things, but is that the greatest air conditioned solution for you? I think we need to start asking those questions. And do you have a lot of humidity in the areas that you live in? Because if you do, that's another thing that really needs to be talked about with a system that can help with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the indoor air quality is really a whole nother
conversation, right?
HVAC. Yeah, but it's a great conversation that a lot of people don't know about, and so it gives you the opportunity to educate them, and it's a good feature and benefit of the Unico system.
Yeah. Francis, really quick, if I'm someone who wants to reach out to learn more about the Unico system, how can I reach you?
You can reach me by email, which it's a long one. It's Francis. Oh, you already got it. Oh, yeah, francis.leisure@unicosystem.com, or you're more than welcome to call me. I'm available, and I tell every customer this, I am available 24/7, but if you call me in the middle of the night, it really better be an emergency.
Oh, that's funny.
I'll call you at 2 a.m. and talk about Tinker Toys, okay?
That's fine. Now that I'd be happy about.
Okay, all right, good.
We'll talk. There's no problem, Dave.
Oh, well, thank you everyone so much. This has been a great conversation, for hopping on this call. Thank you especially to Robert and Audree for your insight. Francis, you as well. It's been such a great conversation. A little bit, if you have questions, like Francis said, you can go ahead and email him. His contact information's right here. It's also in the chat. We also have the Unico system in the chat as well. If you want to do any more exploratory exploration there, it's in the chat. We have another webinar coming up. And this one, we're going to talk about the power of our free design service. We've touched on it a bit through the conversation, but it really is a game changer when it comes to modular construction and making sure that your timeline is met. So you can scan that QR code to go to our LinkedIn to sign up. But Audree and Robert and Francis, truly thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I really appreciate it.
No,
thank you for the invite.
Guys.
Yeah, thank you, Maura. Nice job. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We hope you have a good rest of your week.